Yo, what is up everybody and welcome back to another daily update video. My name is CryptoStash and I hope you're having an amazing week. It is currently Friday and we've got some very important news to cover for the cryptocurrency and the stock market. First of all, we are starting with that Bitcoin is currently crashing to the downside as a result of the stock market also having a dump and currently finding support at our weekly pivot. But let's talk first about what is causing this dump and where are my next price targets to look for a potential bounce and a new long position to catch that next move to the upside. As you can see, this move has been made today by the only one, the Donald Trump. As you can see, he again announced a tariff new. As you can see, he issues strong warning to Apple that if the iPhones sold in the US must be manufactured in the US, or if they are not, like in any other place like India and something, there will be a 25% tariffs for Apple, which also has caused the Apple stock to crash. As you can see, if we also open Apple, you can see Apple also is currently crashing. I do not cover stocks, but as of today, right now, I just want to cover this one. Basically, you can see Apple is crashing to the downside with a big gap. As of right now, since this tweet was made, this announcement from Donald Trump, and basically, it's right now, if that happens, as you can see, it's very bearish for the market. These tariff news have very strong impact. Basically, all of this dump right here on Bitcoin that has happened before for almost like 2-3 months was basically based on this tariff talks. Also the stock market crash right here, you can see this crazy volatility that we had on the S&P 500, this move and this move also here. Both of these moves are caused by that tariff talk for Trump, but currently there is a 90-day tariff pause basically worldwide from Trump. So it's expected 90 days ahead that we have a move to the upside. So basically that's a small correction. As I previously said, once we are from that pivot resistance right here, we are currently rejecting and making that small correction for the stock markets, basically almost 3.5%. That's for Bitcoin. That's basically nothing for crypto, but for the stock market, almost 4% of a correction is a significantly big correction, but that's nothing compared to the correction that we've had, or I can't even call that a correction. Basically, it's a capitulation of about 16, and the big crash, if we measure from the all-time highs, basically 21%, almost 22% for the stock market is basically a very big crash. And right now we are currently just making a small correction if we compare it to this crash right here that we've had from the previous tariff talk. So basically, if Donald Trump continues with his tariffs, they will slam the market, in my opinion, more. So we will have to look out for that in the future. But as of right now, for Bitcoin, I'm not really worried since we are still keeping above 100k. Basically, I'm confident that we won't fall below 100k if we do not break that weekly pivot to the downside. Basically, Bitcoin from its all-time highs, new all-time highs, is right now only having a 4% of a correction, and is also currently finding support between our weekly pivot resistances. As you can see, they acted before as a resistance and we broke through them, and right now price is finding support here, and our strongest support is basically at our weekly pivot, as you can see, of around 105-104k for Bitcoin. Also, if we look on our open interest and our liquidations, we've had a lot of long positions get liquidated right here, as you can see on our liquidation chart, stablecoins. Basically, all the margin contracts, as you can see, so all the leverage longs got completely squeezed, completely liquidated right here on this move. So there were a lot of longs piling up at the all-time highs basically, and then once again, as you can see, our CVD completely went down, our delta and also our open interest. And right now, since it's the weekend, also as you can see here on our liquidation heat map, we took almost all of that liquidity. But what I wanted to say, since right now it's the weekend, if we go for example on a smaller time frame, basically for Bitcoin I am expecting that we start creating some kind of a chop around here, some kind of a consolidation basically, since today is Friday and the markets, the stock markets and the CME future markets will be closed tomorrow during the weekend. Basically Bitcoin has very little volatility during the weekend, so that's why I'm expecting after this drop that we got from the all-time highs of around 4%, that we get into some kind of range right here between the weekly pivot resistances, and probably maybe we can get tonight another dump, possibly, I'm not saying it can happen, possibly to our weekly pivot and then create some kind of consolidation right here. But if we look at our Bitcoin ETF inflows, basically you can see today we almost had 1 billion of ETF inflows, and it's very bullish. We've been having the whole week many millions of Bitcoin ETF inflows, as you can see right here. Also our fear and greed chart is basically still in the grid. As you can see, we're still in the grid, 76, almost in that 80 zone to the extreme grid, as I talked in my previous video. And also our funding rates are still positive, as you can see right here on the major exchanges. So I still keeping bullish, so I'm not thinking that Bitcoin will drop below the 100,000 anytime soon, but that's only my opinion. And also if we look of longs versus shorts ratio, you can basically see right now there are more shorts. So basically this tariff talk caused many people to get bearish, and there are more shorts opening, as you can see right now in the moment, than longs. And if we look at some altcoins, for example Ethereum had a slightly bigger correction and is right now back in that previous range that we have broken out of. And actually, as you can see, Ethereum perfectly has tested our weekly pivot once again and found perfect support here, and it actually got a bounce of almost 2.5%. But that dump for Ethereum was way bigger, as you can see, almost 9% from that our weekly pivot resistance right here. So we got a significantly big drop from 2700 basically all the way down to 2500 for Ethereum. Solana also did make a really big dump, also completely to the dollar, as you can see, from our weekly pivot resistance of around 100, almost 187, back down to our weekly pivot 173 US dollars, and is currently making a bigger recovery. As you can see right here, it has pumped again 4% basically after this drop of around 7.5%, perfectly bounced, as you can see, right to the dollar from our weekly pivot. Basically this the weekly pivot is the strongest support and resistance. It depends on where the price is positioned. So basically if the price is falling down, then the weekly pivot will act as very strong support, and the other way around, if the price is going up and the weekly pivot is above it, it will act as a very strong resistance. But as you can see, once broken above, then we are straight ahead shooting for these other weekly pivot resistances basically, and price is perfectly respecting them, as you can see on Solana, also on Ethereum, almost perfectly respected. On Bitcoin also, as you can see, we broke out, we actually kind of swing failed this high right here. So basically our new all-time high, we did swing fail that. So we got a candle wick above that high basically, then we got completely rejected right here. As you can see, we closed below it, then we got another pump to the upside, trying to actually break above, but once again we got rejected, we got some candle closes below, and then since this tariff news happened from Trump, basically the market took a dump. I will not call it a big dump, but it's just a correction as of right now, in my opinion. If everything continues as is, if there are no more tariff talks basically from Trump, that's why I'm hoping for, and I'm expecting that price will recover, possibly after testing that weekly pivot for Bitcoin at 105k, and then we can get some kind of a bigger move to the upside, maybe test the all-time highs again, and that will be my outlook for Bitcoin for today. As you can see, guys, very crazy things happening in the market right now. Once again, we are having tariff talks, and we are getting big volatility. So I will keep you updated also during the weekend, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye.